Welcome to the Thundercast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The Thundercast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the Thundercast. You can follow us on Twitter at Thundercast_pod. Thundercast is your Marshall reps for the College Huddle, thecollegehuddle.com, the largest network of fan-driven podcasts in America. You can find the Thundercast anywhere that you listen to podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube, and I tell you what, we sure would like it if you would like and share the links with your friends and help us grow this show, because we sure do love doing it, and the bigger we grow, the more we can do for herd fans, as we will talk about later on when we do this recap. We had a local donor reach out to us, and man, oh man, did we make something happen? Did they make something happen? We all came together and made something happen for 75 week. But before we get into everything, we've got I'm calling it from now on, the season's winding down, but we're going to call it the Mike Green Watch. We're going to update everybody on what Mike Green's doing and the records that are coming swift and man, in a hurry. But we can't get into any of it without a quick word from our sponsors at Lazier Oliver, PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Lazier Oliver, PLLC. Find them at 3or4carwreck.com.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm rip-roaring and ready to go. I'm sure you are too, man. I'm still feeding off of the 75-week performance. I can't wait to talk about that. From the outset, I got to say that I think both of us, even though we didn't hit the nail on the head on some things, damn if we weren't really close about some of those talking points. Man, that's going to be fun to talk about. But I tell you what, we get it started this week like we do every single week, and I'm going to need you to give me 5 things that every herd fan needs to know this week.
How about 6 things every herd fan needs to know this week? As always, brought to you by IgniteLink, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. Number 1, second week in a row, and I'm hoping for a second week in a row that I'm not butchering this name, Ksenia Lunashina, swimmer, and Grace Kelsheimer, diver, own the Sunbelt Conference water for the second consecutive week, sweeping the Of the Week awards. Lunashina's second award on the season and Kelsheimer's 4th.
Let's give them quick early crowns here because they're killing it. Love those Of the Week back to back. I mean, come on. I don't care how many teams. I don't want to talk about that every time we talk about swimming down. I don't give a crap how many teams there are in the conference. They're still the best of the best when it comes to it, especially in these last couple of weeks. Give the girls their flowers, man. They are crushing it right now.
And as we said, I mean, that's not the only person or swimmer to get swimmer of the week for the herd, so they're competing against each other as much as they are everyone else from the Sunbelt. But you got to love that 2 weeks in a row. I mean, everything that we said last week carries over to this week, just how they are absolutely crushing it. Number 2, over in men's soccer, the herd places 3 on the Sunbelt Conference All-Tournament team. You got goalkeeper Alexa Yannick, defenseman Alex Bamford, and forward Lineker Rodriguez dos Santos. By the way, Marshall grabbed 13th, the number 13 seed for the NCAA tournament, and they have a bye before hosting the winner of North Carolina and Furman. Those tickets are on sale Thursday, I think. But no matter what, you will want to get those tickets if you want to be there for the NCAA tournament, the first game we host.
Yeah, let me look that up real quick because I could have sworn that I retweeted a tweet that said they are on sale now earlier.
They probably were. I was thinking they were going on sale Thursday. This is late Wednesday night, and they could have already been on sale. It could have been Tuesday that I'm just misremembering. But no matter what, they're on sale.
Yeah. On sale. Yep, tickets on sale now. The road to Cary has started, right? And all we needed was an opportunity. At this point, it doesn't matter that we were not able. I know I'm a little bit of a spoiler. We were not able to hoist a trophy of any sort this season. I think every Herd fan that had the ability to tune into that match was tuned into the match, so I'm really not spoiling anything. But I think what it does, Russ, is says how strong of a program that we have, that we were seeded with a bye, and
Absolutely.
the team that did not receive a seed is the team that hoisted those trophies. I'm telling you, man, if that were us, we would all be griping about it. And
Yes.
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I think, gee, many Christmas, how much respect is Marshall as a program now garnering? Because what we are receiving is what we gripe about in football. And it's like, well, what these guys did last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago is not really relevant to what they're doing this year in terms of rankings and polls. Yet here we are, not a regular season champion, not a tournament champion, the bona fide number 2 team in the Sun Belt this year, and yet we received the bye in the NCAA tournament. I just think that speaks utter volumes about Chris Grassie and this program.
It does, but also our scheduling and things like that. Our out-of-conference schedule was very, very tough this year, and we performed well in it. Yeah. So that carries a lot of weight. Our RPI was high, and they base a lot of that on RPI. So I do think that WVU got shafted by that. I think that they should have gotten probably that 16 seed, but maybe you should schedule tougher on your out of conference.
It's not an argument. I mean, I'm not going to argue against that. I think it's a valid point. And also, when you look at the schedule from a whole, it's a game. It's one game that we played to a tie, or that kept us from winning the regular season, right?
You pick one of 3 games that we had a draw. Right. 1 of 3 down the stretch, and WVU obviously the last one. But if you don't get a draw in Kentucky and you don't get a draw, it was a Georgia team. I can't remember if it's Southern or State, but I think it's Southern as well. But, any one of those 3 games, you don't get a draw. And 2 of those, we had late leads and we just let them come back. So, I mean, and also no matter what, any idiot that is cleaning toilets, no offense to any janitors that are watching, but the WVU fans out there throwing all their stuff that they want to on Twitter, you probably shouldn't talk down about how you're, beat a nobody when you went 200 minutes and couldn't score against them, and then, had to beat them, with them being down a couple of their, penalty kickers from the year, and getting one of the, you can call it lucky, you can call it good, you can call it strange, you can call it whatever you want on that first
one.
One, but you've got a pinball going back and forth and it barely rolls over the line. I don't think that's one of those where you want to say, "Oh, we beat a nobody."
You beat a nobody with a star on their crest. I know that.
Sure, yeah. Let's move on, because I could talk crap about WVU, and I could have my own show.
That's a whole nother show. I
could call it a spinoff, and do an hour and a half a week on that. But number 3, J.J. Roberts was named Sun Belt Conference Special Teams Player of the Week after blocking a field goal that led to a massive momentum-changing touchdown. Now, we're going to talk all about this during the recap of the thing. So I would like just to get a brief reaction from you, and I'm going to save all my stuff to talk about it during the recap.
Yeah, well, my reaction to that is the play itself. Instantaneous, top moment in 75-week history. And I say history because we've really only been putting a emphasis on that game as 75 weeks since like
2013, Tulsa, 2013.
So since that era began, there have been some great moments, and I can talk about a lot of them that pop into my head, but that might be, it's easily top 2, and it might be the top moment, because if you remember the top game, that might be the first one in 2013 that we were down huge and had a big old comeback at Tulsa. We did, if I'm not mistaken. We were down big and had to come back and win that game.
I think if you will go back and look, and this is going by my memory, and usually that's pretty good, We jumped out to a massive lead and allowed them to come back and then go ahead, and then we had to come back and beat them.
Yeah, well, okay, that's what I mean. I knew we weren't like running away with the game. I remember
we were. I think it was like 21-0 in the first quarter.
No. I mean, running away with, like, I knew we had to come back. That's what I meant. Like, we were down, and I thought it was pretty significant. That
I think it's only a touchdown that we were down.
Really, I was thinking it was like a 21-point comeback or something.
No, I think
of course your memory is way better than mine.
Well,
anyway, go ahead. I'll keep looking at that.
Talk about my hair too. Memory's good, hair's good. Let's move on while you're doing that. Number 4, Nate Martin, named Sunbelt Conference Men's Basketball Player of the Week. He averaged 20.5 points, 7 rebounds. Get this, 78% shooting in the 2 games from the week.
Nate is off and running. I think they said when they tweeted that this is only his second player of the week. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Last year, again, going off memory, I think he had double-double in both games, but it was something like 20 points, 15 rebounds in both games. I mean, it was just something ridiculous. That I am not so bullish on my memory, but I do remember him putting up some big points the week that he did it. But he is one of those guys that is just so consistent with getting a double-double that, you can put him down for 12 and 10, or you can put him down for 14 and 11 or something like that, that he's so consistent with it that I feel like it gets lost so often. That somebody does it when they've never done it, and they're like, oh, he's the player of the week, but Nate's doing it week in, week out. But 20.5 on 78% shooting and throwing up 7 boards and average for those 2 games. That's a good player of the week right there.
Yeah, it is. And not to circle that back to football, but what you just described is the exact scenario that is Mike Green is happening to Mike Green every week. And it's a load of bullshit. I don't care who votes on it.
You could rename the award the Mike Green 2024 Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, I don't care who votes on it, because they still have to look at the stats and the games that's being played. And when the stat lines don't read as impactful as the one that Mike Green puts up week in and week out, it's like, what are you doing here, man? Like, this is not an everybody gets a ribbon freaking game. It's like you give the award to the guy that deserves it the most. And for the past few weeks, easily it's been Mike Green, and it has not gone to him. And I'm like, what are we doing here? But anyway, let me talk about Tulsa real quick. Right. You're absolutely right. It was not a huge comeback. In fact, it was only a 3-point comeback. Okay. But what I remember was I guess what I'm remembering is it was a late touchdown to take the lead, and then we tacked on another. So the ultimate final score was 45-34, but Marshall scored that go-ahead touchdown with under 4 minutes to go in the game. That's what I was remembering, but somehow I was remembering a big comeback, and it was just a late game go-ahead touchdown. So, but I don't care. The point I was making was JJ's moment might be a top 2. It is a top 2 moment, might be the top 75-week moment since 2013.
All right, we are going to go to number 5 here. The regular season finale for football on the road at James Madison has been elevated to ESPNU. Kickoff is a blisteringly cold 8 p.m. on 11:30.
Woo! Wow, that's going to be rough. We were talking about how this game was going to be probably a little chilly.
Yeah.
But hey, the Herd get elevated to the last 2 weeks of the season to ESPNU. If you think that's an upgrade, I mean, I guess in some senses it is. We talked about this before. I still didn't, find out if I could watch ESPNU games or not. But I don't know. I don't. If it is an upgrade to you, I don't see it as being much of an upgrade, because, like you said before, it's not like you're going from ESPN Plus to ESPN2, or ESPN, the big dog. But I don't care. It's still cool that you're getting a national audience or national eyes for the last 2 weeks of the season. It says you're doing something, and we are doing something. We're now riding a 4-game win streak, sole possession of first place in the East. Like, Huff's got the squad rolling, man. These guys are rolling. And whether you like it or not, I think there were a lot of folks less than a month ago that were, very vocal about their feelings. And now it's turned around. And I wonder how those folks are taking it. If they're being, some of them have owned their mistake and said, man, I was wrong. But others have just been really, really quiet about the Herd winning, which is always worrisome to me. It's like, you're waiting for us to lose? Did you want to talk?
Well, sometimes it's the same players every time, and I don't mean players as athletes. I mean the movers and shakers on social media that have a name like Absolute Herd Fan 1874382. And it's you know what I'm saying.
I live to troll.
Yeah. But they're going to say whatever they want to say as a self-fulfilling prophecy. You just keep saying, we're going to lose. This is going to happen. I see it all the time. I'm a Reds fan, so I've got to see people on there hating their team.
I just don't get it. I think it's awesome. We went through some ups and downs, and we were trying to figure it out. And now all of a sudden, a couple of weeks ago, AJ Turner goes down, and I'm like, okay, how's it going to happen? And then the pass game takes off more than it had to that point in the season. And all we've done is continue winning. And it's like, awesome. Like, I can't think of a point in the Huff tenure where we've really been clicking as well in all three phases. Right now, like sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes we give up ugly plays and big runs, and sometimes we squander some drives. And we had a couple of those in this game we'll talk about. So it's not like it's perfect, but they're getting the job done.
Yeah, and let me tell you something, man. This is unscripted because I didn't know we were going to be talking about this. This just hit my head. We're talking about ultimately here a Game Time being put on ESPNU, and we got off on this, but I feel like this is the most adaptable we have seen a team, that we had all these plans to come in with the air raid, and it wasn't working early. So we adapted and we took advantage of what we had, which was a very strong run game. It's still in the top 15 in the nation. Well, I think it went to 20th.
20,
it was 11 in the nation before, and we now have AJ Turner down. So we switched quarterbacks, because we had to go with what was working better, and we figured it out, and then we had AJ Turner, and now we don't know for the final two games. I'm just saying these past two games, we don't. And we said, well, we're going to have to pass better. And we did, and it just seems like no matter what we're doing, we're just adapting. And I think that's awesome. And we have basically just said we're not going to be stubborn and stick with we said air raid coming in. You still have the concepts. The announcers are finally saying exactly what I've been saying. Not that I'm some genius about it, but they have been running the air raid concepts and spreading the ball out and the routes and everything. And that has allowed for the running game to be successful. We all said it was going to be a modified, but we both thought that it would be at least 55-45 on pass plays to run, but it wasn't working. So we became a running heavy thing, probably 55-45 on the runs.
Mm-hmm.
So I just love how adaptable we've been with all this, and it's leading to success on the wins and losses side.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I think you're right. This is the most adaptive Huff team that we've seen, because you can think about last year's team, and we went through injuries and we lost games. We couldn't change to win more games, and now this year we're able to do that. And I think that's the mark of a really good team. You just do what it takes to get the job done. Yep. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. A fan, how many times already have we been like, hey, win's a win, win's a win? And that's all. I think Iowa fans leave the stadium every week going, win's a win, win's a win. So I don't care, man. If you want to win, that's the end all be all. You win or you lose. And if you lose, then you talk about how horrible you played. If you win, you're like, wow, we really found a way. And that's the difference. That's the difference.
Yeah. And if anyone still wants to talk about, how we're not playing perfect, because you mentioned that we are not.
No.
But if anybody still wants to look at that, I posted over on Twitter earlier this week the points for and points against, both total on the season and in conference. And if you compare what we're doing to everybody else, our points per game are up there with just about anybody in conference. And, our margin of victory is around somewhere between 12 and 13, I think. So we're doing pretty daggone good.
Yeah.
You look at what we talked earlier in the season, one single play out of everything that went the way it did for Georgia Southern to come back. Every single thing had to happen. You get one first down that doesn't have a penalty. You don't fumble one of the two times. Anything. They drop one of those passes that they had to dive for. Anything. And we win that game. And we still would have been like, whoa, we almost let them come back. And people would still be angry, and rightfully so, for what kind of a meltdown to let them back into that game. But we're that close to being undefeated.
Yeah.
And we would be.
And essentially having the East sewn up at this
We
point.
would have it clinched right now if we had won that game. If every single thing went the rest of the way that it had this season, we would have it right now, because even if we lost both, well, no, James Madison still might be able. I think they've only got 2 losses. Yeah, so we would almost have it clinched. Win one of the final 2, and you've got it clinched.
But currently, right now, I know we need to move on, and we do need to move on. But right now, you are where you want to be. You win, and you're in. That's it. You handle your own business, and you don't have to rely on. A week ago, we needed help, and now we don't need any help.
Yeah,
that's where you want to be.
Yeah. Number 6. Here's that Mike Green watch. Mike Green may have been robbed of Sunbelt Conference Defensive Player of the Week. We'll talk more about that later. But the Shrine Bowl named him their Breakout Defensive Player of the Week. I want to say what you said. You don't break out when you've been leading the nation. You
don't break out in week 10.
Yeah. So let me give you some things here. Shout out to Steve Cotton, as always, for compiling most of these. I've picked some other things out that Steve does a great job of making this real concise. So Mike is now solely in 4th place at Marshall for season sacks with 15.0. Number 1 is Cecil Fletcher, 17, and tied for second, BJ Cohen and Jonathan Goddard, both with 16. So with at least 3 games to go, 2 regular season and a bowl, Mike has a really good chance, considering he's gotten a sack in every single game that we played so far this year. Really good chance to be our all-time single-season sack leader here. He is now first all-time in single-season sack yards with 126th, with at least 3 games to go. In less than 2 full seasons, he's tied for 9th with Jameis Martin on the all-time sacks list with 19.5, and he is second all-time in single-season tackles for lost yards with 136. Jonathan Goddard has 162, and that was in that amazing 2004 season. We can say a lot more about Mike, but it's the same as last week. He still leads in sacks in the nation. He still leads in sack yards lost in the nation. Tackles for loss yards, and he is the number 1 tackler amongst defensive linemen in the nation.
Yeah, I have to do one quick fact check, because you said something and I was like, well, I don't think that's right. So I went to check. So this actually makes his season a little bit more great, honestly, if you think about it. Maybe not more great, but a little bit more impressive. He does not have a sack in every game. In fact, he's had 2 games this year where he has not registered a sack. He was not credited for one against Western Michigan or Georgia State. So he's got 15 in 8 games.
It's tackles for loss that he had in one in every game. I'm sorry. Yeah, only mistake I'll ever make on this show.
Good. That was a terrible one, man. I expect better from this Mike Green watch, the most important mini series of this final part of the football season. But I think you're right, dude. All of this is within reach, and I tell you what, the crowd size 24,000+ at 75 week. I think that's a big driver. I think Mike Green's final game at home, and it being 75 week, yes, but Mike Green's potential final game at home, yet to be determined if Marshall will even be able to host a SBC title game, right? We don't know. There's too many moving parts. But I think that put a couple of extra asses in seats because they were like, man, this guy's an all-time great. I finally see that now. I can't just be always comparing everybody to my favorite player. Like, this guy's great. And I think he's got a real shot at being the number one. The only other thing I want to talk about, that I know why they say he's in fourth place, but Cohen's not playing anymore. And who's the other one tied? Goddard tied for second.
Goddard, yeah.
Neither one of those guys are playing anymore. So why can't Mike Green just be third? You know what I mean? Like, why can't they be first, tied for second, and third? Why has he got to be fourth? I don't get that.
Because there's 3 above him.
Yes, but 2 of the guys are tied for second. There is no third. That's what I'm saying.
No, that's still 3. That's how that works.
I know that. I'm saying, but he's like number 3 on the single sack total. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't change the total.
No, his total it's still the 4th best because there are 2 16s and a 17 above it.
I know. I know what you're saying. I'm just you understand the point I'm making, right?
I know what you're saying. I don't want to say, I know there are KD, you're wrong.
I get
there are 3 individuals, and if Ken Griffey Jr., he was your favorite player for the longest time.
Yeah.
All right.
Still is.
He hit, and I'm blanking here on exacts, but I think that he hit 58 homers one year and 58 another year, and then he hit, I think, 56. And you could say, well, that is his second best is 56. No, because he had 2 at 58.
But that's what I would say. Well, his second best is 56 because he hit 58 twice. That's what I would say.
Yeah, but if he hit 58 15 times and then he hit 47, you wouldn't say that's his second best. You would say, man, look at how many times he hit 58. That's what you have to look at. I know what you're saying, but for me to just eloquently say it is, I know what you're saying, but it's wrong.
I know
that's not how statistics are.
I know that. I'm just saying. I know. I'm saying is, yes, there are 3 individuals. 2 of those guys have the same total. So there's nobody going to be in a true third place, right? Like,
that's why he's 4th.
I know, but that to me is why he's third. That's all I'm saying. I know it doesn't work that way, but in my mind,
hit us up in the comments with your math class and statistics.
Oh no, we don't. I don't need proven wrong. I know I'm wrong. It's like I just wish he would. I don't know.
Look,
that's why you're splitting hairs. He's 4th and 3rd. He's gonna. You know what? He's gonna be first in about 2 weeks.
That's what I was gonna say. We ain't gonna worry about it much longer. You can argue how many people's behind him, but
all of them.
Is what it is. But that brings us to the end of this week 6 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Ignite.
Oh man. Okay, on that note, let's talk about a football game. Now that we know that Mike Green is having a historic season, which we already knew, but now it is not only historic, but could be an all-time season.
Did you see what I put out earlier? They only have it since 2005 on the stats website for the college, but Mike Green with his 15 sacks is tied for 22nd in single season sacks since 2005. So the last 2 decades, 20 years of seasons, he's tied for 22nd. So, with 3 games to go, that's tied for 22nd with 3 games to go.
Yeah. Quick question, it's a question, but it's an opinion answer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Mike goes in the draft this year? Do you think he declares and goes to the draft?
100%.
You do?
100%.
Okay. I think it's obviously, my gut tells me he puts his name in the hat, but what happens after that is different.
When you look at 6'4",
raw as hell,
248.
The sky is the limit with this guy.
He put a little weight on. I think they said 15 to 20 pounds this offseason to get to 248.
Yeah.
And at 248, he's as fast or faster than he was last year.
Yeah.
His moves is what gets you. It's not that he's over there just throwing people to the ground. He's got the best, swim move. He's got the best. He's just got everything.
Well,
he's got the speed. He's got.
It's the things that they talk about the most. It's your get off and your like your first step. Man, it's otherworldly. It's elite. It's elite.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think he declares as well, which is another reason that I think those fans that went to the game are going to be really glad that they went to that game. Not just next year, but like in a couple of years when he's showing out on Sunday, they're like, man, that guy was awesome. So all right, let's talk about a Coastal Carolina 75-week recap. Because man, what a great game it was! What a great game it was. There were some kind of hold my breath moments while I was watching along there, and 31-19. That's about as good as you can ask for. It could have been a tad bit better, but I don't really care. 31-19 brings the Herd to 7-3 on the season, 5-1 in conference, first place all alone in the SBC East Division, riding a 4-game win streak. You gotta love it. That's about where it ends for normalcy in this game. The standard score and standings, because all the indicators, all the other things, many of the data points in this game tell a different story than what happened. And I'm not trying to be dramatic, but the numbers aren't lying. They are. Anybody else can look them up too. It's not like I embellished these. Total yards, time of possession, first downs, third downs, penalties, and turnovers, the indicators. If you would have looked at these and did not know the score, did not know who played, you probably would have picked the other way around in this one. You probably would have picked Coastal Carolina to win this game. Or total yardage, 391 for Coastal, just 254 for the Herd. Time of possession, edged by Coastal, 30 minutes, 52 seconds, 29 minutes, 8 seconds for the Herd. First downs, 20 for Coastal, 17 for Marshall. Third downs, 8 of 16 for Coastal Carolina, 5 of 13 for the Herd. Penalties. This is the first place where Marshall gets the edge, and it's not a huge edge. 6 penalties for 50 yards for Marshall, 8 penalties for 62 yards for Coastal. The big one, though, was turnovers. No turnovers for the Herd. 3 turnovers for Coastal. But man, those other if you'd have told me before I started making notes, what do you think Marshall's total yardage was? I guarantee you I would have gone over 300 yards. Even though I knew that the rushing yardage was horrible, I would not have guessed 254 yards. Russ, before we get into what the guys did and all that kind of stuff, now that we know this one was weird holistically, like when you look at the whole of the game from the team stats, let's talk about 75 week and how it all played out before I talk stats and we do grades.
Really quickly for everyone that's listening on the stats, minus 32 with 1 rushing was coming off of snap that went over top of the punter's head. So
Yes.
When we're talking about our total yards, it should be 32 higher. I don't know why that gets counted as a rush when it's a punt thing. They ought to have its own category. But that cut our rushing yards and our total yards down a bit. But still, It was not good either way. But 75 week, just as a thing, tailgate was bumping. I'm talking bumping. We had some all-time greats stop by.
You got a name drop.
Brendan Knox, Devin Miller. Love having those guys over there.
Yeah.
Had some people from Coastal, and I think everybody saw the tweet thread that I put out about that. Just landscaping by Hillcrest with what they've allowed us to do this year. Had another tremendously good tailgate. It was a brunch tailgate. We ran out of just about everything before the game started.
Good.
And when I say everything, there was a lot of everything. So yeah, good tailgate. And that's not all what this is about, but that sets the tone for the day, right? It was just the atmosphere was great the entire time. And you come out with your big time players making big time plays, and some of them being seniors and some of them being local seniors at that. Everything about this was just home run, and I'll talk more about that when we get to the grades. But
Yeah,
what a great weekend.
It was awesome. I mean, from everybody that played a role, right? Even the video guys, Stan and Rodney put out great stuff all week. I think the aura that was surrounding this game this year, we've talked about the uniforms and helmet was just beautiful. And then all of the great visuals that they put out all week long leading up to the game, the fact that we were talking and reminding folks that there were several guys that might be playing their last game ever at Jones C. Edwards Stadium this week probably drove a few more butts into the stadium. The fact that Marshall had never beaten Coastal, we wanted to beat Coastal, probably got a couple of more fans into the game. Everybody, I think, tried to find another reason to go to the game, and that's kind of what you should have every single week. Find a reason to go, because the reported attendance was 24,175. So there's your first 75. I don't even care if that's embellished or rounded off or whatever, but there's the first time that number pops up during 75 week, and there are others. But let's talk about the guys. Braylon Braxton, again, went the distance for the Herd. Again, had a pretty good day through the air, 20 of 31. 219 yards, falling just behind his total last week of 220. So he now has the 2 highest passing yard totals in consecutive weeks for the Herd this season. 3 touchdowns through the air, no interceptions. Another 16 carries for 30 yards. Some of that was taken back because he got sacked a couple of times. Jordan Houston was the leading carrier, or the leading rusher for the Herd, 9 carries, 33 yards, 3.7 yards per carry. Carl Chester, 4 receptions, leads the Herd in yardage with 69 yards this week, 17.3 yards per reception along a 33. Chuck Montgomery is the leader in the clubhouse in receptions. He has 6 on the day, 67 yards, and a touchdown, 11.2 yards per reception and a long of 23. And then Fitzpatrick has 2 for 30 yards and a touchdown. And then Toby Payne gets 3 catches for 10 yards and a touchdown. I think I knew it was going to be something special on the first opening drive, and Coastal went down and scored, but they were throwing everything in the kitchen sink at Marshall to try 100%. To get downfield. And I thought, all right, if this is what you got to do out of the gate, you've got no freaking shot. And they pretty much had nothing going until later in the game, but it really drove home for me that this was probably going to be our day on the Chuck Montgomery touchdown.
I'm a big nerd, as you know. Hey, thanks, man. It reminded me, especially as soon as they did that, I even said under my breath, from Thanos and Marvel, all that for a drop of blood. And that's what it felt like. They had a double pass. They had almost a triple end around reverse. They had, come out with tempo. They had, trying not to throw it all on the first drive, just come out, run, and let's throw in some triple option, even though I know they have that in their playbook. It was like, let's do all this stuff to go down. And then after they did that, you're like, well, we've seen everything you got.
Yeah, that's all you got.
And now we shut you down for about 3 quarters, you know? So it was, but that's what it felt like to me. It's like all that to get a touchdown.
Yeah.
Go you.
That they threw everything that they had. And at that moment, I thought, all right, seriously, I thought, this is what you're doing. Then you have nothing for this team.
Yeah.
You know you have nothing for this team. So good luck to you. And, of course, we saw how it played out. Defensively for the Herd, J.J. Roberts has the big day. 12 total tackles, 6 of those solo, 1 tackle for loss, 4 passes defended on the defensive side. We'll talk about that special play here in a little bit on special teams. Here's the next time that the 75 pops up, Russ. J.J. Roberts now has 75 tackles on the season following his performance at 75 week. You cannot make this shit up. Landon Watson, 11 total tackles, 2 solo, and 1.5 tackles for loss on the day. And then Money Mike Green, 8 total tackles, 3 solo, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and a fumble recovery, yet not Sunbelt Defensive Player of the Week. I don't get it. Impact plays for the Herd. I'll let you get in here. Impact plays, 3 total sacks, 2 by Mike Green, 1 by Jabari Ishmael, 8 tackles for loss, 9 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and an interception by Josh Moten late in the game to seal the deal for the Herd. What you got?
I agree with you. A Marshall player got robbed from getting Defensive Player of the Week, but it wasn't Mike Green. It was J.J. Roberts. Here's why. 12 and 6. 12 tackles, 6 solo tackles. A tackle for loss, which was at a big time when he did that. But 4 pass deflections, 2 of which took away what was almost guaranteed touchdowns.
Yep.
So you've got, and I know the one is a special teams play, and they gave him special teams player of the week. But you're looking at, had he not done that, that was a near automatic kicker, that we were going up against from the distance that he was at. He's near automatic. So that could have tied the game. So that took 3 points off the board for them and gave us 7. That was a 10-point swing. And then he had 2 defensive or passes defended to where he tipped the ball out of what was guaranteed touchdowns. Second one, they were wide open at the end of the game, and he just hung in the air as long as he could to bat that ball down. Beautiful. But Mike Green was exceptional, but I would have given, out of the 2, I would have given J.J. Roberts Defensive Player of the Week and gave Special Teams Player of the Week to like the entire squad.
Henderson.
Because, well, when you go back and watch, I mean, it's everything. Josh Moten he ran and held his arms out and ran in front to where you couldn't possibly say block in the back. Mm-hmm. That block doesn't happen. Jacoby Henderson doesn't get that. Jacoby Henderson doesn't scoop it up, be ready. Like Coach said, 1 blocks, 1 scoops. And if he doesn't do that and have the athleticism that he has and the vision that he had, we don't score on that. Other key blocks were right there as well. The blocks that tied the people up that allowed JJ to make that block, just everything about that. It was a team block and team touchdown. I have no problems giving JJ the special teams award. I just want everybody to understand, if you go back and watch that game, just how ridiculously good JJ was. He had like 4 of our first 6 tackles, and just they weren't trying to throw on his side of the field. And even when they did, it was just 4 pass deflections. By the way, now he is ranked 10th in the nation in pass deflections. So amazing.
As a safety.
And 4 of them came in this game, and 2 of them, like I said, took away touchdowns. Go back and watch. The one was in the guy's hand, and JJ didn't get pass interference. He batted the ball out after the guy made the catch in the end zone. Mm-hmm. It's one of those, he didn't get enough steps in the end zone. He batted the ball out. Like maybe he took 1 step and he batted the ball out. And then the other, like I said, he hung in the air forever. So just the impact that he had on this game, man. And I know we're going to talk during grades, but when we're talking about Defensive Player of the Week for the Sun Belt, what he did was just, somebody had to put up ridiculous numbers to beat Mike Green with what Mike did. With the forced fumble that he did at the time that he did it, at the sack that he did on 4th down when he did it. I mean, everything that he did was just ridiculous. But JJ having the game that he had just blew me away on the rewatch. I saw it live, and then on the rewatch, I'm like, daggone, that batting that ball out right there saved a clear touchdown. And you start looking at how that game may have gone at that point. It could have gone a lot different if JJ didn't have those 2 pass deflections in the end zone.
Yeah, of course, I liked him to have a big game. I picked him to be my defensive MVP. I thought his skill set matched up unbelievably well with what Coastal wanted to do. And it's not like I'm some guru or anything. It's just like his athleticism looks like it's going to play a big part in this game. Yeah. And you mentioned batting down 2 touchdowns. We've seen already in other games, some of those passes defended are on other touchdowns. So he's saved the Herd so many points this season. It's almost laughable, because we've also joked in tongue in cheek. It's like, wow, this whole team has 8 passes defended on the entire season. And here we're talking about our guy saving half a dozen touchdowns potentially for the Herd this year. Let's move into special teams real quick. Nathan Totten, just 1 opportunity at a field goal. He does nail it from 39, 4 of 4 on extra points. Alec Clark, wow, man, what is going on? 4 total punts, 208 total yards, 52-yard average, 2 touchbacks, 1 inside the 20, and a long of 67. I don't know what the hell Alec Clark has been eating lately, but feed him more of it, because the power is in the leg, son.
And it looks like a game of inches that Amir Foster had like an inch of his shoe
Oh, I
on the
thought it was
line.
in.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so that one was you talk about the net would have gone up for him. It wouldn't have gone up anything for the yardage total, but the net would have on his punting. But also too, you're looking at how many inside the 20s he had. So you take away one touchback and give him another inside the 20. If I'm talking a sliver of the heel for Amir Foster doesn't touch the line.
Yeah, from TV, I thought they had it. I thought it was going to be first down coastal on like the inch-yard line, Ian Foster, you almost nailed this one, man. I mean, wow, almost nailed it. 2 kick returns on the day, 135 total yards, a 45-yard average, and a long of 64. Wow, he almost did it for you twice. Almost did it for you twice. And then, of course, the blocked field goal by J.J. Roberts, which we've talked about, which led to a 65-yard scoop and score by Jacoby Henderson, which changed the complexity of the game. And we will talk about this play for decades and decades and decades. And it will live in infamy, thank God, because it's on things like YouTube. You'll be able to watch it and tell your kids about it and your kids' kids, because that was an awesome, awesome play. Let's go right into grades if you'd like to.
Yep.
All right. Quarterback, what do you got for Braylon this week?
I've got an A-, and the only dings are he had a couple of throws in traffic early in the game, a couple that really could have been picked off, and thankfully they weren't. He had an amazing game of preventing turnovers, moved the ball when we needed, had a beautiful, beautiful pass to Chuck Montgomery, maybe the pass of the year on when he released the ball. Chuck had not even made his move that he was making on the defender, and he threw it perfectly in stride into the end zone. Really good. I just really didn't like those throws into – one was in triple coverage.
Yeah, across his body. That was a bad throw. Yeah. That was dangerous.
But, I mean, you're talking about nitpicking at this point to give him an A-. He doesn't throw that ball, and I probably don't nitpick the other ball that was almost picked off. But ultimately, they weren't picked off, and an A- is a hell of a grade. Yeah. So good job by Braxton.
Yeah, if you remember, also I picked Braxton to be my offensive MVP this week because I said he needed to manage the game well and not turn the ball over and just take what was there. And I'll be damned if that's what he didn't do. He took what was there. Sometimes he created a little bit of a play and got lucky. You know it's your day when you're throwing across the middle and it's tipped and your own guy catches it and runs for – a little bit longer, and you're like, okay, well, it's our day, but that is what is special about 75 week. These little moments and things that never happen all season long happen in this game. And for people that still think we're all full of shit and it doesn't happen, how can you feel that way? You see these things and you're like, all right, you're like, okay.
And you can twist a whole bunch of things and everything. It's hard to twist a 7-0 at 11:14 on the clock from a few years ago, and that's the second time it's happened. And this time, number 11 JJ blocks the field goal for a touchdown, and it's the first time in 14 years that it's happened. It's just like all this stuff. Yeah, it's statistically and coincidentally things are going to pop up like that, but it just continues to happen. And we said it in the preview. There's always some play that happens that's weird, that's whatever,
and you'll know it when you see it.
And we had this one, and I said it immediately. I tweeted at you. Luckily I had enough juice on the Wi-Fi for it to go through, but then look out of 3 times that he touched the ball, Ian Foster nearly took 2 to the house when I had said I'm just feeling that.
Yeah, these things happen. All right, offensively, what do you got for the guys this week? The only thing that I can really throw up as a roadblock is you mentioned 32 off of rushing yard totals on the punt, but that still only brings you up to 67 yards on the day as a team, which is crazy. What the hell happened to the Herd run game in this one against a team that was porous against the run? But that's really the only thing that you can knock on them. Because they have a normal rushing day. Well, I'm saying if the normal rushing is there, then you're probably over 400 yards of offense. That's what I'm saying. I'm sure you have something cocked and loaded, but that was the point I was making.
I do, and I've got them at a D+. And here's why. They had 4 false starts. That's drastically uncharacteristic. 3 by 3 different offensive linemen. and then one by Toby Payne. I'm sorry, 2x2 offensive line, 2x2 tight ends, Toby Payne and Justin Holmes. But we had 67 rushing yards on 31 carries, notwithstanding the snap over the punter's head. 5 drives in the second half with absolutely no production. I think we got out of those 5 drives I'm talking about, we had a rushing first down during that, and we still punted. And I think that's the punt that the ball went over the head. So even though that was special teams, you have hiking the ball into the end zone, from your line. Offensive line had a pretty daggone bad day. And it's uncharacteristic because they have been so solid all year long. We just had at times an absolute dead offense, but the other one, there was one other penalty on the offense that was on Toby Payne, and I think it was maybe one of the worst.
Like what they call it's offensive pass interference. It was bullshit.
Yeah, because Braylon had already released the ball; it was already in the air when Toby had like 2 more seconds or 1 more second before he even engaged the guy. And that guy was about a good 7 yards behind Carl Chester on that drag route. Chester, there's no way that the only reason Chester was open to catch that is because Toby Payne blocked before it was a pass. It was already a pass. They showed it on the replay to say, oh, here's where he did it. The ball's already in the air, man. But anyway, the penalties on the offense is a major thing. It really could have bitten us hard, but 31 carries on 67 rushing yards on 31 carries. And really the offense just stalled except for 2 of those drives. One of them was a 2-yard drive, when Chris Thomas set us up there on the 2. We did not look good on offense for a good portion of this game.
Now that you mention that, I do want to bring this up because I tweeted it when it happened, and it was off of the tail end of one of those kick returns. And it was late, whichever the second one was, I think. It was late in the game. All we needed to do is pick up a couple of first downs, squirrel this one away, and would have been done. Yeah. And Marshall comes out, runs 7 seconds off the clock, and does not force Coastal to use a timeout at all. I'm like, okay. I remember in real time watching it going, oh, that's like the worst thing other than a turnover that could have happened, because it still didn't feel like, as much as I trust this team now to finish out a game, when that was happening, I was thinking like, it shouldn't be this tough for these guys to just get this one over with. I didn't feel like Coastal was going to come back or anything like that. I was just like, all right, man, it's like, put it away. Let's just, this one's done.
Yeah.
And 7 seconds, 7 seconds. And you could see it immediately because I believe the first down play was a pass to Toby Payne, and he ran out of bounds or got hit out of bounds. And as soon as he's running back in, he's like, my bad. That's my bad. You know?
And I got some of that when we're talking about coaching. I'll talk about that specific drive. But no, I mean, if you go back and just look at the play-by-play where it shows drive-by-drive on ESPN, we were a bad offensive team for a large portion of this game, and we got really, really lifted up by the defense and by the special teams, especially the field position battle with Ian Foster putting us in scoring position. But both of those, both of those long runs, we came up with 0.
Yeah, did nothing with them. Not even came away with nothing. Did nothing. With them.
Look at how many 3 and outs we had, or how many 5 and outs we had, and stuff like that. And it just, I got us as a D+, and a lot of it is on the penalties, and a lot of it is on the inept rushing.
All right, what do you got for the defense?
B+, and I'm probably being too tough on them. They only had 2 drives where Coastal drove right down the field. And the first one we already talked about. They threw everything in their playbook at us. But we had 3 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 9 passes defended, 2 fumble recoveries, and 1 interception. Just big impact play after big impact play when we needed it. But a couple of those, it gets knocked down a little bit because of the opening drive, and knocked down a little bit on the 3-play, 75-yard, 51-second touchdown drive that Coastal had late in the game there. So B+.
Yeah, I can't say that you're being too tough because your grade is your grade.
Yeah,
I think this is a pretty solid performance.
it is.
Outside of a fluky ass drive, and we've been giving up those short, quick, long pass touchdowns all year long. So it's not something new. But
I had him as an A minus, and I switched it
yeah
twice to go to a B plus, back to an A minus, then back to a B plus.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't have a lot of respect for the opening drive. I'm like, all right, man, you did what you had to do. Look, it seemed like Coastal's game plan was to come in, immediately do whatever they needed to do to hush the crowd.
Yeah.
Because they knew we were going to be pumped for this game. They knew the place was going to be energized, right? And so they're like, all right, we got to hush them. And
I felt like the opening drive was to do two things. Well, three things, because I agree with what you say, to hush the crowd and get the momentum on their side. Try to get that energy out of the stadium.
Yeah.
But I think it was, one, to score, which they did. And two, I think it was to avoid Mike Green sacking their quarterback on the opening drive of the game. I felt like they did everything they could to protect Ethan Vasco. I don't know if it was for a confidence thing, for the crowd, for the energy, or for whatever, but they game planned almost, in my mind, specifically to neutralize Mike Green on that first drive. And
they probably did, because they know who they're going up against.
Sure.
They absolutely know who they're going up against. The problem was they didn't respect that they were also going up against J.J. Roberts.
And I could go back and forth on the B plus and A minus, but on my rewatch, I had changed it, like I said, twice. I went from A minus to B plus. I changed it to back to A minus, and then I went back to B plus. And it just seemed like a couple times, you got beat when you shouldn't have, things like that. And I'm probably way, way, way too tough on them, especially when we get to the next grade and you're going to say, what in the hell are you talking about?
All right. So what do you got for special teams then?
I got an A minus, and I tell you why, man. We had two major gaffes. One was the onside kick, not even lining anybody up on it.
I'd forgotten about that one, and I had two of my own.
Okay. The other one was the snap over the punter's head. So what was the other one that I missed?
Kickoff out of bounds. You had another kickoff out of bounds.
We did.
Yeah.
I bet that's when I had to run to the bathroom.
Yeah, kickoff out of bounds.
Okay. So I don't really care so much about those, and here's why. Almost anything that you do now, you kick, especially Tottenham's been kicking him out of the back of the end zone. They start on the 25. That just starts them on the 35. I'd rather have that than them getting something like Ian Foster taking a 64-yarder.
Oh, yeah.
Or them taking one to the house. So I don't really get all up in arms about it. Now, when we did 3 in a row, that one was when you're like, come on. But the punt that went over, the snap that went over his head.
Yeah.
I still don't ding that horribly, because even though that was bad, the snap went way sailing over his head, and he immediately went over there and had the mindfulness to bat the ball out of the back of the end zone, knowing that, hey, giving up 2 here, think of the adrenaline that's got to be coursing through your body and everything. And he knows that, hey, giving up a 2 here is not bad. Giving up a possible 7 here is bad.
Yeah.
And he did that, and he made a heads-up play. I count that as a good positive play that he made. It doesn't nullify what he did. It wasn't his fault, but, it doesn't nullify the special teams gaffe that they made. And if the onside kick recovery would have led to them doing anything, it probably would have been a worse grade. But when you're talking about 52-yard punt average, one of them's a 67-yarder. You've got 3 kickoff returns for 135 yards, and 2 of them, if it's not for the kicker, one of them catching a shoestring, we're putting points up on the board. And you put taking away 3 points, putting 7 up, that's a 10-point swing that ultimately changed everything about the complexities of this game. I'm putting that outweighing so much of those little tiny things that I give them an A minus. Now, people could say, You got to give them a C because those two things are
No, you
egregious.
don't. No, you don't.
When you're talking about what they had done, I mean, we're talking about possibly an A grade before they had those two miscues. You know what I'm saying? For how
Yeah.
well they had done and all the facets. I mean, they got freaking honored as special teams coach of the week for what they had done. Jonathan Galante was awarded that by one of the I can't remember now, but one of them on social media had named that, and they listed 52-yard punt average, 45-yard kick return average. It's just ridiculously good game by the special teams.
It was. I had forgotten all about the onside kick, and I remember thinking that was just bad because we didn't come up and make a play on the ball. I'm like, what? That sucked.
Yeah.
But it meant nothing. It meant nothing at the end of the day. It was nothing. It was a moot point.
For defense on that, they went down and they dropped that. I think that's the one they dropped a sure touchdown in the end zone. So that's what I'm talking about when I went with the B+ grade. When I went back and watched, I'm like, man, we really got gifted, here on defense. So anyway, that's my justification. I know they're my scores, but
you can do whatever you want because at the end of it all. At the end of it all, this special teams accounted for one of the most talked about plays of the week, of the season, and one of the more recognizable plays moving forward for God knows how long. I mean, that happened. So, yes, it's just one play, but, man, what a big play. What a big play. So what do you got for this overall coaching staff real quick?
I had A- because I felt like they were totally prepared for everything in this game. It being the 75 week, this could be an emotional game and you could come out and, all the stuff that you do could have you being more somber than ready to play a football game. I think we talked about that a few times. I felt like we came out and they did what they did for their opening drive and we made the corrections to say that ain't going to happen again. And, we just at all turns adapted in this game. And I want to talk about that drive real quick where we needed to run the clock, run the ball. We hadn't run jack crap all game long. And, I felt like the coaching staff was like, look, if we pick up a first down here. So they ran everybody in the stadium, including Coastal, says they're running the ball. And we do that throw to Toby. And he's picking up like 7 yards and he runs out of bounds. I don't think that's on the coaching staff. You know what I'm saying? Like they wanted to throw these short passes, pick up these first downs, ice this damn game, and it didn't happen because they just couldn't get it done on that. I don't put that on the coach's play calls. I give them an A- for having everybody ready to go. And man, I don't ding them for that passing instead of running at the end of the game because 31 carries nets you 67 yards.
Yeah. No, I don't have a problem with the play call. It's just like you could tell that Toby knew immediately, like,
yeah.
But you're in the heat of the game. You're trying to make a play, and you're just like,
I'm not busting his balls. I'm saying you can't ding the coaches for him going out of bounds because like he turns that upfield and stays in bounds, and that runs off another 35 seconds.
Yeah, and Coastal's going to have to burn a timeout.
Yeah,
right? So it is what it is. He knew immediately. That was what was so wholesome about it. It was just like, damn it. It's like I got to go watch myself do that on film in a couple of days, and damn it. But ultimately, it didn't matter. Here's the thing for me about 75 week is like, the pressure, as much as they might tell you there is no pressure, there's got to be pressure for this game because Doc Holliday always put it the best. How would you like to be the coach of a team that plays a game you cannot lose, right? And that's what 75 week is. They expect you to win that game no matter what, And I can't say that fans are wrong for that. I can't say that players are wrong for that. Obviously they want to win every game, but if you say most of the time, depending on what the schedule is, we say you can only win one game. What game you want to win? I bet you the majority of the time they would say, well, I want to win 75 week. That's just it's just different, and that term gets thrown around a lot about a lot of things. But at Marshall, this game is different. There's not another football game that's played in another stadium by another team anywhere in the freaking country that's like 75 week. That's why it's special. That's why we all hold it near and dear. And that's why you got to win. So the coaches had the guys ready for that. And I know they probably preached to them all week. We'll shoulder the load of the pressure. You guys go out there and perform. You guys go out there and have some fun. Right? That's what good coaches are supposed to do. And they did a great job of getting these guys prepared, changing on the fly, adapting, doing what they needed to do. I mean, hell, what was our biggest points? Run, 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 run. Coastal's horrible against the run. We're great against the run. That's the obvious glaring thing you got to do. We couldn't do it. So start passing the football, and it worked. Fans, what do you got for fans?
I got a B. Everybody that was there was great. We were loud with the We Are Marshalls. It was good. The only thing I'm going to tell you, there was a lot of people not just not wearing black. I understand if you don't want to wear black during a blackout or whatever, but there were a lot of people not wearing Kelly green or black. There were a lot of people wearing like red. There were a lot of people wearing like khaki. Buy some stupid Marshall gear, man. Come on.
We gave you tickets. You didn't have to. You could have went and bought a shirt at least.
But the big thing for the knock on the letter grade is it's 75 week. It's the last game of the year. You're 5-0 at the Joan. You are playing for first place in the East. You're playing for the Sun Belt Conference Championship participant from the East. And 24,000 show up. Yeah, we said, it was a good crowd comparative to what we've had a couple times. But there were still people in the parking lot areas. There were still people watching in local bars and restaurants that wouldn't come into the game. And we had tickets to give away. We gave away over 100 of the 135. And when you count in the 12 that we have, we've got 8 for our sponsors and 4 for that we buy to give away. That was 147 tickets, and I only had 30 something left that I could not give away before the game because everybody I talked to just had them. Mm-hmm. We had 6,000 roughly people that weren't there at that game, and that's a fifth of the stadium. Mm-hmm. And I can't give an A just because the people that were there were loud and stayed till the end.
Right. That's the other side of that argument that I was just talking about when it's a must-win game. It's a two-way street. If it's a must-win game, then show your ass up for the game, right? Yeah. Like you can't demand that you can't lose this game. You can't demand that as a fan. And listen, I say that knowing full well that I wasn't there. But if I could have been there, I would have been there. So you can't preach you got to win this game. There's no excuse for losing this game. But being able to go and choosing not to go.
And listeners and viewers, I'm not talking about people that live in Florida, Charlotte, Atlanta, Louisville, where you live and all that. I'm talking about there are people here in Huntington that will be on social media and be the first people to bitch, but they won't go to the game. And maybe they're out there tailgating and they're like, I can stay out here. It's $12 a beer in there and I've got a cooler here. I don't give a damn. Get in the game, buy an extra ticket and it would save you more money. Instead of getting a $12 beer, go buy an extra ticket or 2 $12 beers and go back out and drink some more and then go back in the game with your extra ticket if you're really wanting to save money and everything. But you can't get on with an anonymous account and start bitching about everything and not go into the damn game.
Yeah. And miss a great performance like that, team wise, full team, full scope. It was a great overall day, right?
Yep.
Overall, real fast, we've got to roll. We're running long.
A+. What more can you say?
Nothing. Herd got a dub. We got some great moments. First place in the East. What else you want? All right. Who's your offensive MVP?
Braxton with a shout out to Chester early in the game. He was just everywhere, and also to Montgomery had a really big game out of the slot. but
Yeah,
it's Braxton.
I would have to echo that. Shout out to Carl Chester. Bailed out the herd on some long conversions early in the game. Big time plays. When those type of plays start being made, that's the thing. It's like, man, this is going to be our day. Defensive MVP, who you got?
I got Roberts with the shout out to Green and for everything that I already said earlier.
Yep, I got JJ as well. Special teams MVP, who you got?
Now, wait a minute. You got JJ, but you didn't go with the defensive player of the week for the Sun Belt argument that I was making?
I mean, I did. I'm not going against it. I'm just saying I think Mike Green got robbed. If you're going to give it to another guy, like it's the same similar position that had a worse stat line.
Yeah.
That's my argument.
I get that, but I was saying JJ had a better one than Green. So I think anyway, special teams is JJ with a shout out to Ian Foster.
Okay, special teams for me is JJ and the Jacoby Henderson tandem. You can't have one side of the blocked field goal without the other side of the blocked field goal. Otherwise, it's just a kick-ass blocked field goal with no touchdown. So shout out to both those guys. Hell of a play and I will watch that. I will be the nerd watching that a decade from now. That's me. Russ, you got anything else on this game? If not, let's take it very, 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 very quickly around the herd.
We're going to start with volleyball. They swept Southern Miss 3-1 and 3-0. However, they finished their season, did not make anyone on the tournament. They finished last in the East. So had a bunch of signees as well. There's a bunch of things. We're not listing those on here. You can find all those on social media. But for National Signing Day, they did reload and put a bunch of people on their team. I know that they're hoping for better success next year. Yep. Baseball and softball, and putting those together, the season schedule is out for both. Just want to let everybody know baseball is starting off in Hawaii. And then you can look at the softball schedule. The entire month of February, which is great for West Virginia weather, they're not going to be in West Virginia, but they will be here quite a bit in March. They have 22 home games, so lots of opportunities to see baseball and softball. Check those schedules out.
Yeah.
Track and field, Kylie Maston finished 20th in the 6K at the NCAA Mid-Atlantic Regionals with a new personal record of 20 minutes, 31 seconds. And now the track and field season schedule is out as well. Swim and dive, they have the Meet of Champions in Indianapolis Thursday through Saturday, and also go through, what are you laughing at?
The Meet of Champions. That was just a funny tournament name.
Oh, well, it's MEET, not MEAT.
I wasn't going there.
No, I thought maybe you thought they had like a spam or something like that, instead of the Breakfast of Champions. But anyway, you can also go see why our ladies finished sweeping the pool for the weeks. You can go see that on Herd Zone as well to see all the info and scores. Women's basketball, they beat Elon at home 65-56 and then lost to George Mason 69-56. Had a hell of a comeback in that game to tie it back up, but down the stretch, just foul shots by George Mason made this one a lot worse on the final score than what it actually was. We were close until the very end, just couldn't nail the shots, and then we had to foul them, and they converted theirs. They will be in Orlando for Penn State at 7:30 p.m. on Thursday and versus Tulsa at noon on Saturday. Men's basketball, they beat Bellarmine 83-62, and they are at number 12 Purdue on Saturday at noon. Men's soccer beat James Madison 1-0 in the semifinals of the Sun Belt Conference tournament, then turned around and lost to West Virginia on penalty kicks 6-5. Both teams got the first 5, and they had to go into extra kicks while they're already had gone through 2 periods of extra time. Very two evenly matched teams. We did not bring home a tournament victory there.
Wait a minute. Two very evenly matched teams with the Herd being down several players in that.
No, so I know. Yeah, I'm with you.
No, I'm just saying, take that one for what it's worth.
Yeah. And as we mentioned, they're seeded 13th in the NCAA tournament, and they will be hosting the winner of UNC and Furman. And That's it for Around the Herd.
Yeah, pretty busy ass week. There are a lot of signees. Baseball announced their class. Softball announced a lot of people.
Everybody.
So, yeah, so I'm saying like there's a lot of signees that are flurrying in for the Olympic sports. If you want to go check those out over on Herd Zone, check out who the newest members to the herd are. So
we never want to list those because inevitably you're going to miss somebody, and we don't want to miss anybody at all because sometimes as we record, those are still coming in. And we do not want to not list somebody. So just go look those up on the respective social media. Yeah, but they will also have those over on herdzone.com, as you said.
All right. Well, if you got nothing else, we need to fly out of here.
I got real quick. Devin Miller, friend of the family, Thundercast.
You were right the first time. Friend of the family.
Yeah, but he is now in charge of the Marshall Athletic Fund for the Big Green. It used to be just simply referred to as the annual fund. But this is where you make your donations to all sports, not a sports-specific thing. Ryan Crisp held that position before he went to director of ticketing, and they are now putting in our good friend Devin Miller in that position. So expect to see Devin on the show here pretty soon to talk about that, and expect to see him around. But I've got a lot of respect for him. I think he's an amazing person, but I think this is a great hire too because you've got a former athlete and who knows about the benefits of these scholarships can now talk to people about the impact that it made for him and other athletes that he's so close to. And I really look forward to seeing what Devin can do with the Big Green.
Yeah, I think this is a great move also. And as much as it is about the capability to do the job, it's also about the relationships that you have and who better to, revisit some of these relationships with his athletes as a former athlete. These guys know about it. And as much as we love Ryan, right? I mean, we love Ryan, but Ryan wasn't a Marshall athlete here that I'm aware of. And that is a differentiator when it comes to these things. I hope Ryan Crisp is a freaking rock star, and I hope he stays with Marshall for a long, long time. But I think Devin in this position is going to be a great addition to the herd, right? Because we know the type of dude that he is, and we know that his work ethic is kind of unmatched. I mean, just from a football standpoint, they called the guy the big fundamental. That means you care about doing things the right way, right? And you got to think that translates into your professional world. And what better place to be doing that than in an office that benefits Marshall University and Marshall athletes? That's like what you want. So I'm super happy for him. Can't wait to talk to him. I hope I'm available when he's going to be on the show because I want to be able to congratulate him, face to face or video chat type deal. And I think that's awesome.
I got him on the live show there for the tailgate just ever so briefly. He was there with his son. He said big homie and little homie. So,
yeah. Well, that's awesome. All right. Well, congratulations to Devin. I'm looking forward to having him back on the show and talking to him about that. But if you got nothing else, take us out of here.
Yeah, whether you see us at the Jack, whether you see us at the Joan, or whether you see us at the Vet, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It is the Thundercast. We'll see you in a couple days for your Marshall at Old Dominion. CommonSenseKY.com Marshall football preview. Later.